Welcome back, everybody. We got episode 14. 1-4. Is that right, John? Episode 14
14.
of the Amateur Hour podcast. Today might be the Amateur Half Hour podcast, but today, we're just gathering on this fine Tuesday morning just to chat about football with two buddies here. So, John, good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks to you as well. Had a good week. Relationship report card wise, we just did one 2 days ago, so I'm sure neither of us have done better or worse, or probably just the same. So we don't
I
need to
would
get
I would nudge myself up to a 9 because Jackie flies in from Vegas tomorrow, and I was originally supposed to work 10:30 to 6:30. She flies in at 4. I got my shift changed around, and for me to get my shift changed around, I had to sacrifice and take a worse shift today too. It was a trade-off. So, I got to change around. I'll be able to pick her up from the airport, so that nudges me up to a 9, I think.
nice. Well then I will say that I'm the same. This is my day off, so I'm gonna clean the apartment. So I think maybe that'll keep me at an 8.5 or 8 or whatever I got. So
That will help,
hopefully,
yes.
fingers crossed. Hopefully,
Coming,
fingers
Carla
crossed.
coming home to a clean home will be a nice, refreshing surprise for her.
Yeah, I always remember when I was a college student and I worked with technicians who were in their 40s or 50s. They said the sexiest thing my husband does is clean the house, so I don't have to do it. So I took that to heart, and uh, I guess I'm only in like 5 months of marriage, but hopefully I
But
can
you're
continue
you're
to.
succeeding so far.
Right, right. Yes, exactly. So pick'em results. You and I did not qualify.
We were
Again,
both we were both close. We were both up there though. We were sniffing it.
yes. Yeah, I switched my pick for the Sunday night game, and if I wouldn't have done that, I would have at least been in the money. That sucks, but that's a lesson learned. Sometimes you switch and it pays off, sometimes it doesn't.
I was gonna say, can I ask you, has that ever paid off for you this season? Because it seems like every time you try to play the mind games at the end and switch them, it never works out in your favor.
I think it did one week. I'm pretty sure it did. But yeah, I should probably just leave it where it's at. But yeah, the Cowboys destroyed the Colts, and I was a little surprised by that, but I will say I think the Cowboys are getting hot at the right time. Um,
Shout out first. I want to give a shout out to Amanda Wiedemeyer. Amanda Wiedemeyer has the biggest balls on planet Earth. She sent a text in our
oh yeah,
Pick'em group chat. She put $50. Amanda's a big Cowboys fan. For those of you that don't know her, she put $50 and moved the spread to an alternate spread in the Cowboys Colts game to Cowboys minus 25. And so she cashed out $258.50 because they won by 35 points. So Amanda wins the award for biggest balls of the year.
biggest balls of the week at least. Yeah, keep it up, Amanda. I will say the Cowboys are looking good at the right time. They're going to be scary in the playoffs to whoever has to match up with them. So someone that was finished last week cold was Michael Harvey. He was going into the Monday night game, one game correct ahead. So he basically had to pick the game incorrectly, have other people pick the opposite, get it right, and then beat him in the tiebreaker. And three people did that. So Michael went to first out of the money. So our condolences to Michael Harvey if you ever listen to this. We feel bad for you. And
No
then
condolences for me. I think it's hilarious.
okay, but his wife did tie for first with
Yeah, that's even
Dan.
worse. Jenna just keeps bending Mike over and spanking him on the ass and saying, "Who's your daddy?" every single time that she wins. Because Mike still has yet to capture a win in the Pick'em League, and his wife now technically has won 3 times, I think.
3 times. First year, a rookie, a very, very promising rookie for years to come. She tied with Dan Parker. Congratulations, Dan. I think that's your first time up top.
Yep,
Good
nice job,
finish
Dan.
at the end. Yeah, Dan. And then Kyle slid in the third there. He got screwed by the tiebreaker. So I think the
So
total was
well done,
33
Kyle.
points. Yeah, 33 points. You had to go low that week. And
Nirvan forgot. I was really hoping that it would bite Nirvan in the ass because he did not put a tiebreaker in, and I was hoping that the Buccaneers would cover and he would like jolt up towards the top, but he would finish out of the money because he forgot to do the tiebreaker. So I don't like to wish bad like ill will on anybody, especially my close friends, but it also is hilarious when ill will happens like in this sort of scenario.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, we talked about him last week. He probably didn't listen. Probably won't listen to this one, but Man, what a hot start! You and him, eight right through the noon games. So entering 3:30 on Sunday, Nirvan is really on top. I think you were either tied with him or he was one
He
or two
was he
games
was
ahead.
standalone first because I had 7 correct. He had 8.
And from there on out, he went 0-6, and that is hard to do. I can tell you, it's almost as hard to pick them all incorrect as it is to get half. Like it's more difficult to get them all incorrect, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I went 1-5 in the last games afternoon, so I feel your pain, Nirvan. That was a tough. It's always terrible when you get teased with like finishing towards the top, and you're like, I just have to not screw this up, and sure enough, you screw it up.
Yeah, and those are really surprising games that we'll get into in the afternoon slate. So we can talk about that in a little bit. But can you tell us how the lock of the week results turned out? I shouldn't have
Yep.
gone against the Browns.
Yeah, you shouldn't have gone against the Browns. I told you I had a lot of faith in my boy Deshaun Watson. So my lock of the week was Packers -2.5. They had that kind of late cover.
Yep.
Not a surprise. Always happens. Packers always beat and cover against the Bears, so knew that was a great lock. And you had the Texans +7.5 versus the Browns, and the Browns. It was looking good for a while. Your pick. It was kind of a slow game in the start.
It
Deshaun
was.
Watson
I
was
was hopeful.
struggling. He struggled kind of all game, but they ended up covering the spread against the Texans because the Texans are really bad. So I moved to 9-4. You moved to 7-6, and our guest remains at 2-8.
And then I will say, yeah, the Texans. I don't think the Browns offense really did much. It was just the Texans shitting the bed on special teams and then like throwing interceptions and fumbling it. So that defense and special teams for the Browns won them that game. So
Yeah,
hats
you're
off to
right.
them.
But that's a good time for Deshaun Watson's first game back is to like have your defense help you so much because then you don't have to feel like so much pressure. If Deshaun Watson was put in the position that like Brady was last night, and it's a close game, but they're down a couple scores, they need the offense to like light it up. That's a lot of pressure for your first game back in a hostile environment with like the situation that he was in. So to go into that game and have the defense kind of put him on their backs and say, "Hey, we got you," just kind of don't screw this up. And he didn't screw it up, I would say.
Yeah, he didn't look good though. The
No,
passes I remember he was throwing at the feet, it did not look very good. But what do you expect if he hasn't played a actual NFL football game in
in
like 2 years?
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the expectations weren't very high, at least for rational people, maybe.
Yeah, I
Maybe
picked him
some.
up. I picked him up in fantasy and I benched him. I was like, this is a lot to expect out of someone after 2 years of not playing an NFL game. So I put him on the bench, but who knows? Maybe I'll plug him into the starting lineup soon.
Yeah, yeah, let's hope. Big baller of the week. I know mine was shit.
Yours was really shit. Yeah, you had Kyron Williams. I looked it up before this. He had zero point 0.9 points.
Nice.
I had David Montgomery. He had 14, so I think that qualifies as a big baller.
Yeah, yeah. And they did as I had thought. Justin Fields had that fabulous touchdown run for like 70 yards, man. He is crazy on the ground. I got to
Yeah, he's a really
give
good
us
runner. It's
yeah.
fun to watch. We just can't rely on that too much, and I think the play calling got really conservative towards the end. Um, I actually didn't watch the end of the game. I kind of just watched like highlights and watched, read some articles about it, and they were just like being really conservative towards the end. And there's a lot of talk. I'm not the one talking because I don't want to accuse the team of this because it's kind of loser talk, but there's a lot of talk that they're starting to throw games because of that draft pick. And, like I said, that's loser talk. I'm not all about that. I think the Packers beat them fair and square, but their
Yeah.
play calling is making you kind of nervous about like, are they really trying to have their foot on the gas and win those games down the stretch?
I thought I watched most of it because I flip between Red Zone and the Packers games when it's on. And I thought they looked like they were legitimately trying to beat the Packers, unless they might be really good actors. But from what I could tell, the problem with their defenses is the Bears defense is they just have a lot of, I don't want to say scrubs, but like second or third options. And with
Scrubs,
that
yeah.
cap space opening up and they have those higher draft picks, I'm certain that defense will be better because I don't think it can get any worse. It's probably in the bottom three of the league. So I don't.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I was surprised that they even hung with them as long as they did because,
Yeah.
their defense is really bad and the Packers offense always exploits them. So that kind of shows, the Packers haven't been themselves and they figured it out towards the end, and I think the Bears defense got tired and the Bears offense couldn't keep the Packers off the field, and it came back to bite them in the ass. So it
Yeah.
is what it is. It's another loss to the Packers. It's not something that I'm overly shocked by. I think it was one of those games where you're like, all right, at least for the first three quarters, the tide is maybe turning where we can at least compete with the Packers for a little bit. And like you said, hopefully that cap space and draft picks, that'll hopefully help us.
Yeah, it was a good game, I thought. I was very nervous because when you pick the underdog, all you want is a close game through the, third quarter, and that's kind of what this game was. It felt like going into the fourth quarter it could have flipped either way. So, I was very nervous, but happy the Packers pulled it out. I don't really think there's a chance they make the playoffs. I'm pretty certain they would have to have like a lot of things fall their way. But I guess we should give them a pat on the back for trying.
And the Packers have two first round picks this year, don't they? Because of the Devontae Adams trade.
They might.
So it's kind of unfortunate for the Packers that, a first round pick still a first round pick, but obviously that value gets worse as that pick gets higher. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of it's a win-win for both teams because the Packers get to beat the Bears again. They get those bragging rights going into next season. They get to still say that they're the Bears daddy. I had a couple Packers fans text me, my buddies and talk a little shit. So they got that, and you guys got that win, but you get a higher draft pick. The Raiders won against the Chargers. They get a higher draft pick. So that's the Packers pick. And then the Bears keep, that number two pick for now. So kind of interesting to see how that all unfolds.
So they actually got the first round pick from the Raiders for last year, and that's when they took that Quay Walker.
Oh, they didn't get two first round picks for him?
No,
Oh, I thought they
maybe
did.
it's further out. I'm not seeing it. Let me
Maybe
see
they
here.
maybe they got a couple second rounders or something. Did you just look up like the return on the Devonta Adams trade?
Yeah, let me see.
So just to kind of fill the void here, that was another game that was surprising to me is the Raiders Chargers game is, they've really started to figure it out. I think the Raiders and the Chargers are really starting to just get lost. I think I still believe in the Chargers. I still believe in Herbert, but he's struggled this year as far as like the weapons that they've had out there for him. He hasn't had too much success with them. Their defense has been terrible. I thought their defense would be one of the top defenses in the league. Granted they've had a lot of injuries as well. So I think they've really had a troublesome year, and hopefully they can start to figure it out. But it's the clock is ticking on the Chargers' playoff chances.
Yeah, actually, that line moved significantly. I think it opened as the Chargers being 2.5 point favorites, and by game time, the Raiders were 2.5 point favorites.
That is a big
So
swing.
that's a huge swing, and I actually switched my pick on that one because a big swing like that. The other big swing was the Saints Buccaneers. I think Buccaneers opened like favored by a touchdown, and by the game time, they were about 3 or 3.5 point favorites. So that was a pretty big one too. But yeah, I was surprised by that. The Raiders are figuring it out, and maybe all they needed was to string two wins together, and they could, start at least competing in these games. I don't know what their schedule looks like going forward, and I don't know if they can make the playoffs. But Derek Carr looked happy to get a win. There were no tears this
It
week.
feels like it's a little too late for them.
Yeah,
But so the Raiders, the official answer is they got a first and a second round pick in the 2022 draft for Devontae
yeah,
Adams. So
yeah.
pretty good return there, but Devontae Adams is having a pretty good year. It seems like he's not if you're not watching NFL and just listening to this podcast, because every time someone picks Devontae Adams as their big baller of the week, he struggles.
He
But
sucks.
I think this week he had like 30 something fantasy points again. So, he's actually really quietly having a great season, and I think he would have been really nice for the Packers to have. I think they could have done without their first and second round pick that they got for him. At least in the immediate future, it looks like a loss for the Packers.
Yeah, I think they might have a little bit of that might have been they couldn't pay him. you know?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. They couldn't pay him what the contract that he deserves, so they figured instead of letting them walk, let's get a little return on him. So I don't blame him there.
And just since you brought it up fantasy wise, he was the leading scorer in fantasy this past week. Amon Ra at the Lions was second with 35 points. Jalen Hurts had 35 points. AJ Brown in the revenge game had 32 points and that incredible touchdown catch. I don't know if you saw that.
The wide
Did you
open
see
one?
it? No, he had one with the guy draped on him. It was a good pass by Jalen Hurts too. It went right over the cornerback's shoulder. Like the cornerback was like right up on him, like hugging him almost. And it went right over the cornerback's shoulder, and he just caught it like that in the end zone. If you get time, I'll send it to you. It was an excellent touchdown. I think he had 2 touchdowns that game.
Yeah, so he
So
must have had two then, because he had a wide open like 50-yard bomb too.
yeah, he's a baller. And then I don't know if you saw, I do have him on my team. So it sucked he got put in concussion protocol. But did you see that catch Treylon Burks had?
Yeah, excellent catch from Traylon Burks. I don't know how he held on to it.
Oh, that was his first touchdown reception of his NFL career, and yeah,
Yeah,
he got freaking smoked. I just couldn't believe that guy didn't get kicked out because I was reading on Twitter there was a game last week where someone got kicked out for a less hit than that. I mean, he definitely just like went right at his head. That other cornerback or safety coming in, you know.
yeah, he lit him up for sure. That was
Yeah,
pretty surprising that he held on to it.
yeah. And then Joe Burrow finishes out the top five with 30 points. Big surprise game for the Bengals. I picked them. I thought they would cover. But the Bengals are the Chiefs' daddy. Three
Yeah, 3-0
wins
against them, aren't they?
in 2022 alone, just this year. So I don't know what it is. I mean, that is a hard team to beat. And for some reason, the Bengals have figured out how to do it.
What did you just say about 2022 alone?
They beat them 3 times just this year.
Well,
Because
once in the playoffs last year.
and then they played
They've
them at
played him
the end of,
twice this year.
no, they played him once this year, but they played him at the end of the regular season last year. So it was in January. It was like
Jesus.
the last regular season game they played him, and then they beat him in the playoffs, and then they just beat him. Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. So they got him. They got him locked down, baby.
I guess so.
Good to see from Joe Burrow. I don't know. How did T Higgins do?
He had like 11 points. I looked that up too, just because we mentioned it. He had a touchdown,
Okay.
so that was nice. But I don't think he had a whole bunch of production outside of that.
Yeah, that's where I was at, and that's why I traded him away. I mean, he'll have those explosive games, but sometimes you just get like 8 or 9 points out of him.
And that's inexcusable to trade him away.
He's great.
Remember when I told you to pick Rashard White too, and he had a touchdown last night to seal the game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So you ask for my advice and then you don't take my advice.
Actually, I do need it today, and I would like to share my screen with you because
Yeah.
this is
Let's do a
so I
jersey
have,
reveal. You like this Josh Allen jersey?
yeah, let's see the back. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, sexy, dude.
Thanks.
Sexy. Um Too bad there's not any female. Well, I guess Amanda listens to our podcast, but she doesn't watch it. So you can't. Can you see my screen?
My mother watches. She's a
Okay.
female.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I
Can
can
you
see
see
your
what
screen.
Okay. So I played Bo this week. And this is a big deal because Bo is right on the border of getting into the playoffs or going into the shit bowl. And I have his first round pick. So this would be, if I can somehow pull off a win this week, it's massive
So your goal is to send him into the shit bowl.
because then his first round pick becomes that much more valuable, right? If it's a eighth overall versus like fourth or fifth overall, that can be quite a difference because there's not many receivers. There's a lot of running backs, but there's maybe like 2 or 3 top end receivers this year for the rookies. And this is for you, those of you listening, I'm in a dynasty football draft, so we can trade draft picks for players. So I have Bo's draft pick for the rookie draft 2023. So I need help with Dave is who to
Gino
start.
smoked. Gino was the reason I lost this week. He had a good week. He smoked me.
I'm
I think
staying
he
with
had like
Gino. My
20
other
something
options
points.
other options at quarterback are Russell Wilson and Dan Jones.
He got rid of Trevor Lawrence.
I traded him for a second round pick and Russell Wilson.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, or Dan Jones?
Probably Geno Smith.
Carolina.
Yeah, Geno Smith.
Okay. The other thing
Russell Wilson sucks. Dan Jones sucks. Any more
okay.
questions?
Yes, on waivers, I was gonna try and pick up Brock Purdy at the 49ers. He's a rookie. He's a quarterback. This is a dynasty league. Do you think it's worth it, or would you go for a guy like Rashid Shaheed, or would you go for the quarterback Huntley at the Ravens?
Um, yeah, I think dropping that Jackson guy is fine because he doesn't really provide you much value. But I don't know if you
No,
need four quarterbacks, so that's kind of tough to evaluate as well.
but I could use a young quarterback.
Yeah, do you think Brock Purdy's future is bright though? They have Trey Lance, so unless Brock Purdy goes out there and really like blows people away, he's really not going to be. He's not going to have any future with the 49ers at least. They
Huntley.
invested a number two overall or number three overall pick on Trey Lance.
So here are
Hunt,
the
Huntley also
quarterbacks.
does not have a future. He's behind Lamar Jackson. So I think in the immediate future he could have some success, but
Do you don't think you wouldn't pick up Purdy or Huntley?
I mean for like the next few weeks you could easily, but if you're looking long term, I don't know if you really need four quarterbacks, you know what I'm saying?
Well, who would you pick up for the next couple weeks? Would you go Huntley or Purdy?
Well, it's a total risk, but I think fantasy wise, Huntley's probably better than Purdy. I mean, Purdy has more. A lot of people are up on Purdy, and he has a lot of good weapons, which makes him a little more sexy. But Huntley, we've seen in the past, Huntley goes in and he produces. He can produce with his legs. He had a rushing touchdown last week. Especially when you're thrown into the fire like both of those guys were, it's hard to produce. They both produced. So I think you'd have to look almost at strength of schedule. If you're planning on starting any of those guys, you'd have to look at who they play the rest of the season to see, who's going to have more value for you.
So
I
Purdy
think
has Tampa Bay, Seattle, Washington, Las Vegas.
um,
And he's
yeah,
from
those are
Iowa State.
those are kind
He's
of tough
Mr. Irrelevant.
defenses. The Buccaneers are a tough defense. The Seahawks can be a tough defense. The Redskins are a tough defense. So that's kind of a tough slate for him. I think they're going to rely heavily on McCaffrey. I mean, maybe Debo running out of the backfield. So I don't see Brock Purdy being a great fantasy asset, but this could be another one of those clips that people could clip and put in freezing cold takes at the end of the season.
Okay. So you'd take Huntley over him?
If I had a choice, yeah, I probably would. I don't know their
Okay.
schedule though, but
Okay. Okay, and then at running backs, I have Latavius Murray, Devin Singletary, uh, Cam Akers, and Kyron
just
Williams.
just play who you have in the lineup right now.
So
Devin
I have
Singletary and Latavius Murray. Yeah, your backup running backs are shit.
I got a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Got the injury bug. Okay, wide receivers, I have Traylon Burks, Adam Thielen,
You got to sub
George
Traylon Burks
Pickens.
out. I think he's out. Um, Good little segue into the big baller of the week. My big baller of the week is George Pickens for the Steelers. So I think you got to keep him in the lineup for this week, just out of
Okay.
faith for me.
Who's the matchup? Baltimore. Yeah, I could see that.
And they,
Okay,
they have
so
a good
then
secondary, but did you see last week George Pickens had very minimal involvement and he was really pissed. So I'm hoping that they get him really involved this week to kind of calm him down.
so okay, so you think Traylon Burks, they haven't said yet if he's out or not. It's not beneficial. He may have not even had a concussion. So let's assume he's in. So George Pickens for sure. Would you do Adam Thielen, Marquez Valdez Scantling, Devin Duvernay, Elijah Moore? It is all shit options, but
Dude, yeah, your team sucks. You like traded away your whole team, dude, and it's really showing because your options are shit. Um, I would say maybe Valdez Scantling or Duvernay if you had to plug one of those guys in, but Duvernay not a great option because they have Huntley. I don't think they're going to pass too much, and if they do, he's going to throw it to the tight ends. Valdez Scantling always has the potential to have like a breakout game. Allen Robinson has no quarterback, so I wouldn't play him.
so Allen
Um,
Robinson is on injured reserve.
Oh, he is. I didn't know
So
that.
is Elijah Mitchell. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, might as well keep Thielen in there. He's like the second best option in Minnesota. Um,
Do you like Cam Akers or Marquez Valdez Scantling? Because I have 4 flex spots or 2 flex spots. My bad.
um, I think I like the potential of Valdez Scantling more than the potential of Cam Akers. He's been pretty bad this year. He hasn't had much involvement, but how has he done the last week or two?
Last week he had 19 points. He had 2 touchdowns.
Oh, why don't you put Cam Akers at the flex? He's getting more involved in the offense. Put George Pickens in for Burks, and then leave it there.
Okay. So I have Pickens in at my flex. So is
Yeah,
Traylon
move
Burks?
move Pickens to Burks. I don't think Burks will play in the league that it is today. If you're in the concussion protocol, they're going to be extra cautious. And then Cam Akers in for Burks. But if Burks
Okay.
is healthy and he plays, then play Burks over Cam Akers.
Well, no, I can play. I get 2 flex spots and 2 receivers.
Oh,
So if,
oh, so you
but
need someone
here's
in
my
there for
question:
Burks. So
If Burks isn't playing, then I go MVS. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I think so. If there's no better options on the waiver wire, yeah.
Do you like the Baltimore defense against Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think I do. I don't believe in Kenny Pickett. I think that he's going to have a couple turnovers. Uh, it's probably a decent option.
Okay. And then while we're here, any waiver wire pickups you would recommend to myself or fans?
No, not off the top of my head. Not Kyron
Any?
Williams. Leave Kyron Williams on the waivers.
Shut the fuck up. Okay. Did you watch the game last night?
I did watch the game. Yeah, it was a pretty good game. I mean, super boring for the first like 3 quarters, but the end of it was exciting. Tom Brady's the GOAT. I never really had a doubt that he could bring him back. I did doubt that they could cover the spread, and he did not cover the spread, unfortunately. But they had a great comeback win. So nice job, Tom. You're handsome and successful as always.
Do you like this Rashid Shaheed? He's a rookie. He had 11 points. He had 4 of 4 receptions,
Yeah,
75
it's
yards.
definitely intriguing. He had a really long catch. He's really quick and fast. They have a lot of options, with Olave. They love Olave, and then they have Jarvis Landry, but it showed that Andy Dalton was really leaning on Rashid Shaheed. So, I mean, in the immediate, like my instant reaction is, yeah, he's an attractive waiver wire pickup for sure.
Okay. And this is a dart throw, and so I can hold on to him for many years. He might make something of himself. So you would take him over Brock Purdy on the waiver wire?
Probably, yeah, just because I'm looking at like the long-term effects here, and unless Brock Purdy blows people away, that's Trey Lance's like job to lose. And then you're
Yeah,
gonna also Jimmy G's gonna be back too, so he's really the third string quarterback next year.
I like that. I like that. I will change that in my thing, and I will go for Mr.
You
Shaheed.
you go ahead and go with your gut, buddy.
Yeah, how's that turned out for me?
Yeah, not good, but
This is big though, Dave. If I can beat Bo and knock him back, looks like I'm heavily unfavored here, but man, this would be huge for me. It'd be really big for the draft next year.
I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. What was your surprise game of the week?
I think a surprise game for me and for everybody around the country was that Eagles Titans game.
Yes,
The Titans have been good this year. Everyone thought they would keep it close. You're looking at that spread and it opens at 5.5, and they're just like licking their chops to take the Titans and the Eagles went out and just blew them out. So 35-10 final score
man.
Eagles. Huge win for the Eagles, really a big statement game for them. It's looking good for your Super Bowl pick. That was my surprise game of the week.
Yeah, I would actually. There's two I want to talk about. I was really surprised. If you would have told me the 49ers were playing the Dolphins and they're going to lose Jimmy Garoppolo in the game, there's no way I would tell you they would win. And if they would win, I would not say it would be more than the field goal. And to win 33-17, I think just goes to show how good the rest of the team is. Like it seems like you could plug and play any quarterback in there, right?
Almost, yeah. So I was interested to see if the 49ers would go to the waiver wire with the quarterbacks and try to pick someone up like a Baker Mayfield who just got
Oh,
dropped by the Panthers. Just kind of an option to get in there and compete with Brock Purdy. But they signed a couple guys. They signed Josh Johnson, who's been like an NFL journeyman, to be a backup, and they also like picked somebody else. I think signed off their own practice squad. So another like decent name guy. So they're gonna have a little bit of competition there. But Brock Purdy went in and he performed well. So yeah, that was a surprise. I thought Mr. Irrelevant would really struggle, but he played well.
now if Brock Purdy wins a Super Bowl, does this change the whole situation, the whole conversation around him?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think if he goes in there and plays really well and wins a Super Bowl, like with some of his quarterback play and not just like one of those like Peyton Manning Super Bowls with the
Yeah.
Broncos at the end of his career, like that's different. But if he goes out there and just blows people away, like you could definitely see a situation where the Niners try to trade away Trey Lance for some good return on investment and keep Jimmy G as a backup or try to trade him away as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these last few weeks and how the playoffs unfold for the Niners.
I think I'm gonna go for him, Dave.
For Purdy,
Yeah.
you have a ton of faith in Brock Purdy, don't you? You kind of
Yeah.
look a little bit like Brock Purdy.
No, I don't. But he played at Iowa State. I watched him live, once, I think only once, but I don't know.
Is
It's
that
just a
just a pick
hometown
that
boy.
is that just who Carla wants you to pick up because she's a big Iowa State fan?
She has no idea. She said, "Boy, that name does sound really familiar."
I didn't know that you ever had interest in Iowa State football until you started dating Carla, and then now you're like this diehard Iowa State Cyclone fan. You're a
Yeah,
big
you're
Alan
right. I
Lazard
was
deep throater. Now you're a Brock Purdy guy.
I guess I just like guys from Iowa. So if I could get George Kittle, I would take him, but he's pretty hard to get. If we
Yeah.
can get these guys that don't have a very bright future by NFL standards and get them on, and something could happen.
Keep an eye on a wide receiver out of Iowa State. I don't know if he's going in the draft this year or next year, but Xavier Hutchinson. He's a finalist for the Blinkenkoff Award. He's one of the best receivers in the country, so I think he's going to be a pretty good NFL receiver.
Really,
Yep.
I'll keep him up.
Another surprise game was the Lions Jaguars. I thought the
Yes,
Lions would win. I picked them to cover 1.5. I thought that was pretty much a lock, but
shit
to
on
win
him.
40-14 is crazy.
Trevor Lawrence, are you still? How are you feeling about Trevor Lawrence
Well, did you
at
watch
this
that
point?
game or hear about anything in that game?
Yes,
Because he went out with a knee injury, ended up, coming
came
back into
back.
the game, but I thought that was like a devastating knee injury
That
that
looked
happened.
bad. Yes, I saw that.
So I was pretty surprised, but he was banged up. I believe in Trevor Lawrence long term, but for the next year or two, I won't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
It's crazy to me that Tua is looking better than him.
Yeah. Well, you also have to think he has a nice looking weapon coming in next year. During the trade deadline, a lot of people aren't really talking about it, but they got Calvin Ridley from the Falcons, so he is a really good wide receiver. So to add him to their already like pretty solid receiver group with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, that's gonna be a pretty sexy option. Travis Etienne's been showing that he's a pretty solid running back.
Yeah,
So I think they need to draft a couple offensive linemen and start, keep building up that defense, and they could start to compete, in the years to come.
yeah, I agree. I think that ETN was a first round. Wasn't he a first round running back? Was he picked in the first round?
I want to say they took him in the second round because they
Yeah.
they had the first overall pick and they got what's his nuts out of Georgia, and then they picked uh Trayvon Walker out of the Jaguars, and then I think they had the second round pick, the first pick in the second round, and then they got ETN there, but I could be wrong.
He was
A lot.
picked to the 25th overall.
Oh wow, you don't see a lot of running backs go in the first round anymore, so that's kind of surprising. But
Yeah.
was he just last year he got drafted? He's a rookie this year?
This is his second year.
Yeah, he was out all of last year with an injury.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So they basically have two first round picks.
Yeah, they basically do. Yeah. Yeah, so he's one boy I wish I had on my team because a good young running back is very hard to come by in fantasy football
Yeah. Yeah,
in general.
that's why those options are always cool, especially in a dynasty league. So it's almost like a Jonathan Taylor, like someone if you had someone like that on your team, you just be licking your chops saying, "Well, I got this young running back who's going to be good for years to come," and Some people out there might trade those guys away for draft capital, but for me, man, I would never let the guy like that go.
You never let Jonathan Taylor go. How did Jonathan Taylor do this past week? Speaking of.
Probably not great. They played the Cowboys and got their ass kicked, so I don't think anybody in the Colts did really great. But
Oh, that reminds me, last week we talked about places Aaron Rodgers might land. Um, I would not be it'd be interesting if he went to the Colts.
you said last week that the Colts will not go for another old quarterback.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
You're
which
right.
one is it? Do you think those go to the Colts, or
No,
do you think
they're going young. They're going young. My apologies.
they can't make
Uh,
that same mistake again?
yeah, I agree. Jonathan Taylor had 82 yards of rushing, no catches.
That's not bad.
Oh no, he had 3 receptions for 21 yards, so he
At
had
least 10 points. That's a decent
13
week.
points.
Yeah, probably a lot better than Kyron Williams.
Not better than Cam Akers.
Yeah, first time in a million years Cam Akers did anything relevant.
Probably be the last time too.
All right,
Yeah, I agree.
who's your lock of the week for this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. Oh man, I bet against them this week, and I'm gonna jump back on them. I'm gonna take the Browns +6 against the Cincinnati Bengals. I shouldn't have gone against them, and my apologies to that
Where's it at?
organization. Looks like it's at Cincinnati.
In-state rivals. That's gonna be a good game, I think.
Yeah,
If you're looking at the schedule at the beginning of the year with Jacoby Brissett, you're not really excited about that game, but now it's gonna be something that should be pretty fun to watch. So I don't hate that pick. Um, my lock of the week for this week is gonna be the Titans -4 versus the Jaguars. Titans looked really bad this week against the Eagles, so I think when you get punched in the mouth in the NFL, you kind of have to pull your pants up and pick yourself up and really come back the next week with a vengeance. And I think that Mike Vrabel's going to get the guys going against Jacksonville.
yeah. And Jacksonville did not look good, and I don't think where they're at in the season, they don't have much motivation to win. Not as much
Yeah,
as the Titans, for sure.
yeah. So they're almost looking for a better draft pick at this point. So they don't have a great motivation, like you said, and that's a division rival game right there. So those games are always close. So I don't love the 4 points in the spread, but I think that the Titans can handle that.
Yeah, there are some interesting games coming up this week. I think last week had a better slate of games. There's a lot of conference games. So you have like the Jets playing the Bills, um, Cleveland and Cincinnati, Minnesota and Detroit, the Eagles at the Giants. But really not a lot of like heavyweights meeting up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was
You
looking
know,
at the slate before we did this episode, and I like Jets Bills. I think that'll be a good game. Browns Bengals. I cannot believe that the Lions are favored by 2.5 versus the Vikings. That's pretty wild.
that no
Um,
way. I mean, can we take that? Can we trust that?
it seems like a rat line. It seems like a rat line.
That is
I
crazy to me. I just noticed that too.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. I think the Vikings are like 10-2 or something like that. So to see that spread is really shocking. The Bears and Packers are both on a bye. That's always kind of depressing when your team's on a bye. It kind of
Yeah.
ruins NFL Sunday, to be honest. But we're still gonna watch. Yikes! I just looked at like the end of the. Oh wait, that's not that one. Never mind.
Oh, it's not good, boy.
No, it's kind of an ugly slate this week,
Oh,
actually.
in the afternoon, it gets real bad. Kansas City at Denver. You don't want to tune into that.
Carolina,
Maybe Tampa.
Seattle, gross.
Shit.
Tampa 49ers would be good if Jimmy G was there, but I don't think Brock Purdy is going to be too
Hey,
exciting to
it's
watch.
Brock's coming out party. He finally gets to prep for the game, Dave. You're gonna see.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm rooting for him for sure because the 49ers are my NFC pick to make it to the Super Bowl. So I need
Yeah.
Brock Purdy to do something here.
Let's go, Brock. Yeah,
Let's
how
go,
funny
Brock.
you pick him, and then 3 hours later, Jimmy goes down.
Yeah,
What a
that's
cruel
tough.
universe.
That's tough luck. I apologize, 49ers fans. I put the amateur hour curse on you guys.
You did, boy. You just cursed him like a witch you are. But I think, yeah, honestly, the best games after the noon games are going to be Tampa Bay, San Fran, and maybe Miami, Los Angeles. I don't know. I mean, New England and Arizona is a Monday night game. That sounds wretched. It sounds terrible.
I think I'm going to Des Moines this weekend just for a little trip, so I think I'm gonna jump back on the horse and get some NFL bets put in there.
Whoa, boy, it's gonna be a great week. Boy, you're gonna
Yeah.
make so much money.
Jackie's in Vegas, and I did give her one NFL pick, which was my lock of the week, Packers, and they covered, so she was very pleased with that.
Did she do it?
Yeah, she did it. I think she put like $10 on it, but
Wow. Hey, that's a payout. What are you doing in Des Moines?
just gonna visit some friends, I think. She is going down to Kansas City for wedding dress shopping with her sister, so
Okay.
I'm gonna bolt over to Des Moines. I don't want to really be alone again. It's kind of depressing, so I'm gonna go
Yeah,
see some buddies in Des Moines and spend the night there, I think.
that sounds like a wonderful time. So you're doing a little Saturday trip?
I'm gonna go Saturday, spend the night Saturday, and then come back Sunday.
Cool, cool. That'll be fun. Well, anything else you want to cover?
No, not really. You didn't give me a big baller though. I gave you
Oh,
George Pickens. Who's your big baller?
my bad. Big baller, big baller. Uh, he
As you can
played.
see, John prepared well for this episode. He did not have a song. If you're starting to think that maybe John hates the listeners because he doesn't get a song, anymore, you're definitely right. He does hate you.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I do. Yes. I will have a song for next week. I think
it was a quick turnaround.
it'll mean a lot more to people when I don't have a song as often. It's more like a special occasion.
I told a couple people that like I've talked to this podcast about. I told them that my buddy, my co-host, does a song before every episode as our intro. And now if he listens to the last like 3 or 4 episodes, they're like, "You're full of shit. He hasn't sung once."
Oh boy. Okay, running back. Big baller of the week. I'm gonna go Cam Akers.
Okay.
Put me down. And then I got the Browns. Cam Akers and the Browns. And yeah, I'm actually feeling pretty good about that. Wait.
Yeah,
No,
I'm rooting
yeah,
for you.
Cam. Yeah, they play Las Vegas. Yeah, I think that's actually not a bad matchup. I think you can do something with that.
I'm rooting for you for sure. My only
Okay.
concern with Cam Akers is that they don't have Stafford, so I think a lot of defenses, if they're smart, will just invest to stop the run and make them pass. And maybe Seattle did not do that last week because Cam Akers had a lot of success. But hey, I'm happy for Cam Akers. I think he's a talented running back that really needs just the opportunity, and he's getting that now. So, hopefully he's another big baller for this week for you.
But the curse is coming down. So
The amateur hour curse is coming down hard on those guys.
right.
So does it make you nervous that both our big ballers are on your fantasy starting lineup this week?
That is very nerve wracking. There was one week where I was like a 30-point underdog, and I pulled it out and beat him by like 35 points.
Anything can
So
happen
anything
in
can
fantasy.
happen. That's why we love it.
Anything can happen. Yeah. Lamar Jackson got me a whopping 1 point this week. I
That
lost my
hurts.
game, and I think I'm out of the playoffs in Jackie's family's league. So
That's
thanks,
tough.
Lamar.
Yeah, thanks, Lamar.
Little plug here. Check out the new episode of Peaked in College that dropped last night, episode 19. Please subscribe and watch the videos or listen to the podcast. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So, and then obviously when you're done, tune over to the Amateur Hour podcast and listen to that. So
Give us a little preview of what was spoken about on Peaked.
it was a Christmas edition. So if you love Christmas, you're gonna love this episode. We talked
Oh
strictly
boy.
Christmas for the full hour episode. So check it out on your commute to work or if you're at the gym, and hopefully you get a couple laughs along the way.
So if you're hanging at home, get a warm cup of cocoa, put on your warm fuzzy socks, plug in your Christmas lights, and turn on
Yeah,
Peaked in College.
turn on Netflix and put on the fireplace thing that just
There
sits
you
there in the
go.
fireplace, and then turn on Peaked in College and just listen to our voices drown you into the night.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
All
that
right.
sounds like a great way.
Well, thanks, John, for recording on this Tuesday morning. I have a late shift today, so thanks for being flexible with me, and thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. This has been Amateur Hour, Amateur 45 minutes, episode 14, 1-4.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.